everybody. Excuse me, let me try that again. Hi everybody. In my last video, right at the end, if you got to the end, I spoke about the subject matter of psychopathy, bringing psychopathy into our awareness and understanding. I kind of alluded to psychopathy versus mastery. And today I'm going to kind of be speaking a little bit about this. And essentially it links in with the good old theme, as usual, of identities. So I kind of want you to imagine if you've got this center point, right? Let's say it's your birthing point. You've got your center point. And your center point has your initial on it. So for me, it would be B, right? Briggs, Brigitte. And that center point is, what gets birthed into this reality, and it then forms a personality, it then forms an egoic persona, but it came in as soul, it came in as pure source consciousness, right? Or it was kind of like vacuumed through these dimensionalized layers into, through source consciousness, through dimensionalization, in the eye, the heart and the mind of God, into our, material form, through that which we call our mother and father. But it's much bigger than that. It's much more sacred than that. And of course, I'm not saying that the birthing process through the portal of the woman's womb is not a sacred process. I'm just saying it's even more so. There are so many more layers to it that is just kind of like unfathomable. So we're really kind of like creating this extrapolation of data here just to bring it in, right? And so we've got this kind of source point coming in through the dimensionalized layers, through the birthing portal, into materialized form, into this reality called Earth, our consensus reality, which I don't really believe is a base reality construct at all, but that's a conversation for another time, or it depends how deep we go and how far we go into this discussion. So we have that point. So like I said, with me it would be B, Briggs, your name, who you are, these layers of persona that begin to form around you, that are created through indoctrinated structure, that are created through the system, that are created through consensus and mass reality consensus. Okay, and through that then we have these layers of identity that are created. And so I want you to imagine you've got the center points, and then you've got these kind of spokes of the wheel around it. And through your age categories, we've got 2 to 7 years old, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, 21 to 27 to 29, etc., etc., etc. And we've got this sort of array of identity layers, persona layers, personality layers that begin to blossom and bloom outside of this, from this original center point of your initial. Okay, and now just kind of rewinding back and going, remember, we've come from the source point. So your initial is also God, right? It's also God. And I think this is the game of spirituality, is where am I? Who am I? What purpose and function do I hold as the who, so as the I, right? Within the one as the we, so the God. So you are the I, the identity, and you are the nothingness and the everything, so the God. Okay, and then like I said, you've got all these aspects that begin to birth through different ages, physical ages. But remember, you've got your soul age developing simultaneous to this as well. And so you've got all these little things happening from the earth perspective. And, you know, at this age we're in kindergarten, and this age you're going to middle school, and at this age you're going to high school, and at this age you're entering university, and at this age you should be indoctrinated into believing that you should begin to come into a stabilized field of work / slavery, and at this stage you should begin to move into a stabilized relationship dynamic in which we're going to bond into union, mostly through indoctrinated romanticized ideals about what partnership is, and by then this timeline you should be divorced, and this is how it goes, tra la 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 la. And I mean, I think it's, and so we've got that, the human aspect, but we've also got these soul aspects. So let's say between marriage and, you know, this beautiful marriage part, having your first kids, etc., to divorce, you've got a soul aspect happening in here. So let's call it this, like, you know, another layer over that, a soul aspect going, I kind of need to steer you this way. You said and that you wanted within this creation this experience, so I'm going to guide you this way. Yet we've got society and that structure creating all these little milestone points. You know, we've got the 40th birthday, and then we've got the, you know, the 60th birthday, and we've got the engagement party, and the this party, and the that party. And so we have these milestones of photographic memories within our photograph you know, albums, and this is what we believe our identity and reality to be. But again, we've got this other layer of the soul trying to go, I kind of need you to go here, because this is going to bring you growth. It's going to bring you excuse me, I'm just looking at my notes. Yeah, it's going to bring you growth. It's going to bring you expansion. It's going to bring you evolution. This expansion and evolution is going to assist you within the spiral of time while we are in center point, and while you begin to discover that there is no past and future, there's only an eternal presence, and that the anchoring word there, or the special word, or the hint word is eternal presence. And so when you begin to understand the eternal nature of the spiral of time and the overlapping layers of identity that are trying to weave in and create with you for a sustainable evolutionary you know, growth process that meets your core needs of safety and structure and trust and love and intimacy and autonomy and self-expression, etc., etc. So these are where, you know, these aspects of the self that need to be met, the core needs, are kind of what we could say the soul aspect are, because a lot of what the earth identity or creation of these identities and labels are really just a game we play very well, a game we are totally immersed in, a game we have fully, like I said, consented to and believe and perceive to be real, to the degree that should you stumble upon a video like this, you might look at the being named B and be like, this girl is a little out there. Maybe she's taken a little too many mushrooms. Maybe she needs to slow down on the psychedelics. Maybe she needs to get into an office space versus doing her content in the middle of the forest, you know, with no path and nobody here. Like, maybe she needs to have a check-in, right? But this is basically where we're at. And so we have these soul layers as well. So you've got the main core there. You've got your name, your let's say, like I said, your initial. B, whatever it is, okay, B. Then we've got the identities and things happening around that, that are kind of coded into the structure quite naturally, so that we would call our earth milestone things that we do. And these are often basically just labels. They're just labels, and they're just roles that we play. Even mother and father is a role that we play until we kind of wake up from the dream and go, I think I actually am beginning to understand and recognize how this is a little bit bigger than just the name and the name game of just mom and dad, or the name game of I am your boss, or I am the account director for XYZ company and corporate business, which is also just a game. And why do I call it a game? So if anyone remembers when they were young and we used to play, it was always very cute how you used to double up the word, which is funny because we're in a binary system. So we would say, we're going to play shop, all right? So you're the shopkeeper and I'm the customer. We're going to play, teacher. You guys are you're in the classroom and I'm going to teach you the subject. And again, these are just... they're just roles within a game. They're characters that we play. And then, like I said, we've got sorry if I'm repeating myself, but it is quite important. It's quite important. In fact, it's, from my perspective, I mean, not that I'm here to tell you what's important in your reality or not, but from my perspective, this understanding of the identity game is very, very powerful, very important, particularly to those of you who have possibly struggled with integration of certain parts of your life, certain parts of your reality that you would call possibly sensitive and quite open in your energy centers. You can give it whatever label. They're just labels. So you could call yourself a starseed, you could call yourself an empath, you could call yourself sensitive, you could call yourself anti-authority, etc., etc. It doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is, if there are unintegrated aspects of those identities still lingering around, they can create chaos for you, and chaos to the degree, to a dangerous degree, we would kind of tip over into the sphere of psychosis, and to the more stabilized degree into a space of, I guess, let's say, nihilism, which is not a nice place to be, because we are here, we want to be engaged in our reality, but detached from the drama. And so when we look at the roles, what are we doing as a role? If we're playing a role, we are an actor. We're an actor in the drama. We're an actor in the horror. We're an actor in the thriller. We're an actor in the game. And we've all kind of given our consent to play a role, right? Somewhere along the line, you've given consent. And then we have another layer, which is our more cosmic aspects, all right? These more galactic aspects that start to teach you more about time and space and structures of reality. And so if you are just looking at the first layer of your human role plays, and again, it doesn't matter where you are in the uncovering of this, because you are an eternal being. I think where this plays a role, and why I mentioned its importance, is that, hold on, I just want to bring a little bit more light in here. There we go. Where this becomes important is, I think, where your soul aspects are overlapping and going, hey, do you not want to feel a reality construct that is less restricted, where you have more autonomy, where your core needs are met, so where safety is not as a preconditioned contract to having given something away. So it's like magic all magic comes at a price, or all magic comes with a price. She says while she puts her hood on in the forest. Yes, while she stares at the mushrooms, swinging her stick around. All magic comes with a price. So it's like, okay, so we want freedom and we want safety, but at what price? At what price does the planet play? At what price do our children play? At what price is the future of the decisions that we make now? What is the price? What is the cost? What is being leveraged? What is the one thing being leveraged against the other? So we're dangling this freedom here. So if you play this role and this character within this game with this title, we will give you this thing. This thing then signifies, based on a belief system, be, lie, if, okay, so deconstruct the coding of what a belief is in whichever way, shape, and form you want. But it's just construct. So then we say we're going to give you this thing. So these are fat salaries, bonuses, etc., etc. And so that you can have this thing. What is this thing? It is a bond. It is a house. It is a cool structure that keeps you safe, that keeps your family isolated and safe. And that you'll never really fully own, because the title deeds are ours, because what you haven't recognized is that within the game of identity, within the big game when you were born, we kind of use your birth certificate as I've just forgotten the name, but as an asset. You are essentially an asset. So you are leveraged. You are you're owned. You're now a citizen of the state. You're not a free man or woman, but you are, right? Because you've got that soul aspect going, hey, actually you are free. You came in from goddamn source, man. This is where you came in from. You always were. You always were. You've always been. You've always existed. You are God. And so come back to that center point. Your identity is Brigitte and God. Brigitte in this formalized structure that we call Earth in our physical bodies. All right. But you came from from an antimatter space, from plasmic fission and fusion. You've always existed. You've always been. You were never separate from anything, and now you're playing a very interesting game, like children, of identity, human. All right, but you've got to realize your God self, your angelic self, your dragon self, whatever you want to call it, your Buddhic body, your nirvanic body, your enlightened, macrocosmic, eternal nature. And when you start thinking and considering about your eternal nature, you're just like, oh my gosh, this game of playing the role of banker, baker, and candlestick maker seems a bit weird. It's okay when you are holding it as a conscious identity and role in order to be of service. So the baker is in service to give bread to the people, to feed his community, right? The banker, perhaps in a time less complex than now, the banker was there feeling that he or she was providing opportunity for young families to grow, for these aspects of safety and security. But it's become very convoluted now because nothing is backed up by anything. And this is the other part about identity, is we are beginning to become very flaky in our understanding, because we no longer, or let's say we're not there yet, but we're starting to very much question what is real. What is real and what is not? The who that I say I am, is that real? And this is where we start to, this is why I said this becomes important when we have unintegrated aspects of ourselves. Now, so I've described those kind of 3 layers, right? From source into identity, the human aspects, the roles that we play, the soul aspects coming in and trying to just redirect, recourse direct, redirect, recourse direct. We call that those, like, and often there are disastrous points in our lives that we call, the shaman's death, the dark night of the soul, shadow work, and we're just like, oh my God, how can the higher self be so cruel? Oh God, it's so hard on earth, it's so hard. Okay, and I'm going through it now. This is why I'm talking about it, and it is fucking hard. And you want to be like, I think this be a little demonic, but it's actually in the law of one, based on that structure of you are everything, you always were everything, it's only we're all just fragments of source. There's nothing to fear other than your own bullshit, your own lies, your own constructs, your own beliefs, your own stories. And again, it becomes very, very difficult because you no longer you begin to understand how we fill in the blanks and the gaps as we wish and please to dictate what reality actually is, and that dictation tells us that is a truth. But in the timeline now that we're in, what we call this age of Kali Yuga, we're in the dissension process. We're going deep, deep, deep down into the fucking darkness of this creation. And again, it's not, I'm not saying that for this to be a moment of judgment to say, damn this world, damn the governments, damn them. No, it's not about that. It's about creation itself. It's about coming into awareness of the game that you play, the identities that you take on, the responsibility that you have when you are in certain identities, the shame that needs to be dropped, the guilt that needs to be dropped, and the game that needs to be played, the game that needs to be played, and a really, really good one, because we do have children of the future, right? And again, we're eternal. It's an eternal now. So, in the eternal now, we question, are there even any extra terrestrial things? Or is it just this? Right? Because there is only one. So it's like, anyway, that's a conversation for another time. I'll stay with identities. So I then said we then have these cosmic layers, okay? So we've then got these cosmic identities, and I guess I just mentioned these extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial aspects of ourselves, these galactic aspects of ourselves coming in. So it's these God body aspects. So I mentioned dragon body, the Buddhic body, the Christaic body. These are big bodies of data. And they kind of just piece together as your consciousness grows and grows and grows. And so this is another layer of the identities that you're trying to integrate. What I've left out here is trauma. Okay, so we've got the cosmic layers coming in, we've got the soul layers, we've got the very functional, coded and programmed, indoctrinated human aspects within the identity game, and then we've got trauma. All right, and what the trauma does is create offshoots, right? So it creates offshoots from that original kind of boom. I've come in as this. This is my choice. This is my free will God particle here. I've come in as this. I've got these other layers we've spoken about. Now I've got trauma, and it's going to fracture certain parts of the identity. And those fractured parts are going to be kind of floating around here and there and floating around and not accessible to this. But it's like, hey, please don't forget about me. Please remember when you were a little girl and this happened and it caused so much trauma that you decided never to do that thing again. And so you've you've offed this thing. It's like you've assassinated it, you've cut it off from you, and let's say that was your creativity, let's say that was your femininity, let's say that was your innocence, right? Let's say this was your creativity, let's say it was your sexual desire, let's say it was your and these things become our shadow. Okay, this is what our shadow is. So we've got now this other layer of aspects. So let's say it's the shadow identities. Okay, and those are also hanging around. And so all of these things need to be integrated. And let's say we've got our human system there, and most of the human system, because the traumatic parts are fragmented from it, it's not whole, and it's covered in these roles, the acting, and let's say it's got these kind of like spikes around it. It's like it's got an alarm system around it, a barbed wire fence around it. And the barbed wire fence is basically these sub-personalities that come in. And we've all got them. We're all exploring them at some point in time. And essentially that barbed wire fence or that alarm system are these sub-personalities that come in and that we get to explore. And from the soul aspects, so these higher aspects, it's like, have a look at that. Have a look at how deviant, I don't know if deviant's the right word. Hold on. It felt good, but let's say that's all aspects going, okay, wow, let's marvel at the complexity of being human, right? Because now it's showing you this, it's not only showing you the roles and the identities, it's also showing you the barbed wire fence that has the sub-personalities that come in that are really just coping mechanisms for the traumas that are laying around, fragmented on the outside, and the soul's still trying to do its thing, and the multidimensional galactic aspects is still trying to do its thing. And so, it's like those memes on Instagram or on social media where it's like, ha ha ha, the higher selves are sitting there eating popcorn, watching us on Earth going, so fucking funny. Look at them trying to integrate all of this, trying to figure it out, right? And so what I'm going to be speaking to today in a little bit more depth is one of these kind of sub-personalities, and that's psychopathy that comes in, all right? And so just to begin this chat, essentially, I think what is a wonderful kind of anchor to look at in these moments is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? I feel that many people are probably in a space of, like, let's say stasis, which we are, it's kind of like numbness, because we've been dealing with so much, because there is just so much, because we are hyper stimulated, we are constantly dopamine fixing, our entire nervous systems are chaotic, and I know this for a fact because I've been going through quite a healing process the last while, and it's been very, very deep, very, very intense for me. I have seen all the addiction programs, not only physical addiction but technological addiction programs, coming up very, very blatantly, and to show me, like in a breathwork session, it's like right there, like, and I often get it, like trying to go to sleep and seeing screens in front of me, and that's me still sitting and looking at candles, creating a cutoff time with regards to watching certain things, etc., etc. But we are just so overstimulated. So it's the first question is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Numb? You feeling a bit numb? I'm not surprised. Okay, so in that numbness, what are we, and why are we numb? Is there a lot of escapism happening? probably. Why? Because we're understanding this game of identity a little bit more, and we feel fake and we feel false, and so we want to kind of step out of the ickiness of that, and we want to maybe move to more of a celebratory mode through joy and escapism, and maybe casual drug use, or increased sexual deviance. There, I can use the word there, increased sexual deviance, just to feel something, right? Because we've been numb, so we want to just feel something. So we move to these layers, and so there's these sub-personalities that start coming out. The deviant, the kind of dark mother, or the shadow aspects of ourselves. And again, there's nothing wrong with this. Everything must come into being, into seeing, into felt sense. There's nothing wrong with it. We I think, are very fast going to move through this time frame where spiritual people are really pointing fingers at each other. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This whole thing is fucking eternal. It's forever. There are so many details and data points to observe and to learn from, that it is absolutely fucking mind-blowing. That the best thing that we could do with one another is just say, hey, this is where I'm at in the story. This is how I'm reading the storyline. Are you reading the storyline? Is this, I'm feeling pretty numb. I'm trying to work through it because I realize that it's an escapism tactic and technique. I'm looking at the sub-personalities. I'm looking at the narcissistic aspects of myself. I'm looking at the vanity. I'm looking at the distortions. I'm looking at the overlays. I'm looking at the why I'm doing things. I'm looking at everything, and I appreciate that because I appreciate the game and the magnitude of the game, and I appreciate you within the game, my brother and sister, because I realize and I recognize that you are me and I am you. So let's just share information here, all right? And so again, how are you? Right, numb. Awesome. So we could say we're suppressing then, other than those times that you are being deviant and you're like going out on the razzle, and you might do a little bit of this and a little touch of that, and these are not conscious additions to your body. No matter what story you may want to spin, it's not. If we think of the electromagnetic field of a baby, this is purity. This is purity. This is true fucking light, man. This is the light body, like, that's purity. Where if you're sitting smoking cigarettes all night and filling your lungs with toxic chemicals and whatever it is, we can call it whatever we like. We can call it the jewel, we can call it our gift to ourselves, we can call it celebration. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, are these things good for our body? Maybe they're good for the mind, but are there other ways that we can do this? Can we reach the pure state of that childlike, like, holy shit, this is amazing, I'm running through a forest and I love it, wow, look at the trees, look at the sun, look at this, look at that, this excitement that a child has? Can we do that in our adulthood without needing to come into escapism and substances? And again, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm currently moving through the dropping of an addiction program, which has opened me up to such a raw space, and it's one of the hardest things that I think I've ever had to do, and it's opening the wound of the abandonment wound wide the fuck open, which I spoke about in my last video. And this is why I'm speaking about the sub-personalities, because I'm seeing all of it. I'm seeing all of the ways that I abandoned myself and the obvious sub-personalities that were there. So remember, I spoke about this barbed wire fence, or this alarm system around these characters, these masks we wear in. And of course, how the hologram works is we've got our energy centers, right? We are mainly functioning from distorted and inverted lower centers. Okay, so we would call this D1 and D2. So dimensions, also let's say your physical and your emotional chakra centers. And these are completely inverted because the whole planetary system has been inverted. And let's say that information is or is not true. Let's say the storyline in this particular video says it is. I'm not here to say, I'm not here to project into your reality. But for me, a system that continuously and repetitively loops war, suffering, child abuse, sex trafficking, just all the fucking satanic shit. I don't need to go into that, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on these things, which is an atrocity because it is happening, and being allowed to say something that is happening, it's fucking happening. I shouldn't really need to ask for permission, right? So I ask for forgiveness and hope that this gets out there. But my point is, we've created these sub-personalities because it's literally a toxified field. And so we've got our D1 physical body, D2 emotional body, pinging out that, these systems and these structures, and it's being run by the unconscious mind and the subconscious. All right. And so what we're going to ping out into our field, right? Because this is the classroom. This is the classroom. We're going to ping out a distorted pattern in order to bring that distorted pattern to us, so that the unconscious and the subconscious, that's what's sitting in the unconscious and subconscious of these two bodies, the D1 physical and the D2 emotional and the D3 mental. Okay, so these are the first three chakras. It's going to ping that out. It already is distorted. Right? Our Merkaba mechanics, our light body mechanics have been distorted on this planet. All right. Everything is running on a finite system, not infinite. So we know in the totality that we're infinite. And this is where we need to kind of work on our cognitive dissonance. This is the spiritual work. This is the spiritual work. Where am I in cognitive dissonance? Therefore, where is the lie that I am saying to myself or teaching, but I'm not actually embodying? Okay. And so we've got these distortions running. It's going to reflect something back in our field, which is going to create a painful experience for us in order for us to heal the wound. Remember those aspects of the trauma that I said had kind of fragmented from the original I am, or the initial, that is you, the Brigitte and the God. Okay, so we're trying to piece in these fractured bits, but how to do that is to re-represent the wound to you over and over and over and over again in such magnitude and such dramatic effect, which we can now see in the world stage. We don't only have to see it in our individual holographic field, we begin to see it in the world stage, and but the individual holographic field is enough. That's all you have to work on. That's all you have to work on, is your own individual field. And so it's going to present something to you, and it's going to more than likely be a pretty fucked up experience. If you have the soul aspects going bing, 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 remember, we're here to evolve. We're here to satisfy your core needs, and we want to move through an evolutionary process so that you wake up out of the dream. And what I mean by waking up out of the dream is waking up from the awakening. So your soul aspects are already doing its bit. You think you're good. You think you're awakened. You think you're on the path. You're like, ha ha ha, the muggles, ha ha ha, shame, poor. When will they wake up? Bless them, but no. You've still got to wake up from the awakening. You've still got to ground and anchor into the reality. You've still got to come into your absolute mastery as God, as knowing you are a God body, that you are a walking avatar of absolute fucking light, brilliance. I'm not saying perfection. I'm saying mastery, compassion, grace, kindness. Like you wouldn't you wouldn't question this being. His or her presence is just like there is gnosis. There is embodiment. It's unfuckwithable. Why? Because the little baby avatar has moved through the integration processes, and it is looked at all the little sub-personalities, and one of those sub-personalities that we're going to discuss today is psychopathy. Now, psychopathy is, I think, rife on the planet right now, and I'm talking about mild psychopathy. Yes, we have a whole bunch of psychopaths running around ruling the world because we've consented to it. Please, let's be reminded of that. We vote, all right, or you vote. Some people vote. This is how these things come into power, and because we've given away our power, right? So we do have psychopaths out there. It's very, very clear. I've mentioned the satanic aspects of how our reality works, how energy is used and manipulated and coerced and fed upon, right, through these tactics. And those of you who may think, geez, this girl's talking about Satanism here, like, we can roll it back and say, let's just look at marketing. Marketing of any service and product is an absolute energetic, vampiristic, toxic, manipulative game that is dangling your needs in front of you, never actually with the intention of fully serving that to you, because it doesn't work that way. You've got to serve it to yourself. It's the intangibles. This is actually how it works. The materials are never going to satisfy you in the way that the intangibles are. And here we come to why the mystics and the artists have been recluses from society for so long, because we're talking about all the intangibles, the things that you cannot see, the values and the attitudes of a good society, of a good person, of something that represents free will and joy and celebration and sovereignty, man. Something that represents custodianship and participation within a kingdom, the kingdom of earth. I know this is silly, but like moss is one of my favorite things. This is an entire kingdom within a kingdom within a kingdom on here. You know, the water kingdoms, the river system, all of it. Anyway, I digress. And so I move into the actor role here. Right, where was I? Okay, so a lot of these holographic requests that are going out have to do with partnership. And, or for me at least, because I am a single woman in my early 40s looking for partnership. Why? Because one of my core fundamental needs is love and intimacy. I want it. I want to feel it. Also because we're in a time where things are very, very lonely, and we are social beings. Don't get me wrong. I love my own time. In fact, I spend majority of my time alone. But I love to be tactile. I love to touch. I love to cuddle. It doesn't mean that you need to be my label boyfriend. It doesn't mean that you need to be my this, my that, my that. But remember, one of our needs as well is to have safety and structure, right? And so this is where the wonkiness of masculine and feminine energy is creating a lot of distortion now, because nobody wants to label anything as anything. Everybody is non-binary, but we're forgetting that core point that in order to ascend through the ascension process, is bringing God into you, the you still remains. This is how we avoid, or avoid sounds avoidant, which is not the word I want to use. This is how we come into mastery, and how we sorry, how do I explain it? Yeah, how we avoid situations like psychosis, because when we drop the physical body, as far as I understand it, through my my ancient soul age here, holding the identity of elder, right? How dare I, but I will for this moment, is that when we drop physical body, you maintain the individualized consciousness and merge into the one, into the unified field. So it's like this wholeness. It's this wholeness, right? And so this is why the game of identity is being played now, why we've got digital IDs, and it's to me it's sickening, because when you understand the structure of, like I said, you've got your core point, you've then got the earth aspects, then you've got your soul aspects, then you've got your cosmic aspects within time, space, and God worlds, and there's probably much more after that, okay? And all of this within the one understanding that all the other could just be constructs. But it's like it makes me angry, because I'm like, you're trying to make me a thing, like, and put me under surveillance, because I've now consented to and won't be able to participate if I don't do this. Anyway, I digress. So I mentioned, sorry, I'm all over the place, but there's a lot to talk about, and it's okay, because the one video will be much the same as the next, will be much the same as the next, will be much the same as the next, because this is what I'm here to do, is to speak about soul progression, soul integration, soul disintegration, disillusionment, so which is where I'm at the moment, like totally disillusioned, looking at all of my illusions, and remembering that the mind can create anything at once. It can believe, be lie. It can be a lie to you for many, many things, And so before I went onto a tangent there, I spoke about me being a single woman looking for love, right? And so we have this attraction trap where your D1, D2, and D3, your physical, emotional, and mental body, are picking out a blueprint in order to receive something back that can help you integrate a certain wound. I have now spoken about the abandonment wound that I am dealing with, and holy shit, is it fucking deep. Oh my God. But it creates it in the hologram for you to clear it. And this is the thing, ladies and gents, is that, and this is where the humility comes in, because I, old grand wizard over here, old witch over here, she who has been doing this work for the last 14 years, who has run thousands of ceremonies and run thousands of people through the gates of initiation of her medicine work, is still sitting with a fucking big gaping wound here, with aspects of myself that need to integrate. And those aspects, if not looked at and if bypassed, create backdoor entries and gateways to malevolent energies. Okay, so we can call them demonic forces, we can call them entities, we can call them egregores. It doesn't matter, it's just energy. And again, this is where it gets exciting, thrilling, and complex at the same time, is they're all you. It's all you. You're only ever fighting yourself. Okay, but it depends how big the fight is depends on how big the lie is. So again, I sit here and say, it requires accountability so as not to move into victimizer. This is what I just looked down on my notes. It requires accountability not to move into victimizer, because if we say we've got these back doors open and we've got demonic entities coming in, it's only you that can look at your back door entries. It's only you that can look at the parts of yourself that became fragmented, that split off and from trauma, that I've been crying every fucking day. Last night I couldn't go to sleep. There's another video that I'll post soon, showing the depth of crying, the depth of shadow, the depth of the masks. The masks are fucking off. There's no fucking selling things anymore to each other. There's going, hey, I'm providing this thing. You understand collectively where we're all at. Can you assist me with this thing in terms of monetary exchange? I would really like that. I feel it's a fair exchange. But let's look at this thing, because it's actually, we need to look at this now. It's not a fucking dazzle here and a bedazzle here and this retreat here. We still may do a retreat, but it's just far more pragmatic, real, and practical now. That we're not triangulating that I'm the hero in your story anymore, the spiritual hero that's going to fix you and bedazzle you and activate you. No, you are not the victim. I am not the hero. We are all everything and nothing. All right, but this whole story of the attraction trap, and the attraction trap in relationship dynamic, in dynamics of you trying to fulfill your core needs. So your core need of let's say unification with source guides you to certain spiritual practices or teachers or gurus, and they provide the ultimate thing for you to transcend and to unify yourself. We've got to look at the traumas. We've got to look at the traumas, and we've got to try and work through the traumas in the level of accountability of absolute spiritual maturity, so that you don't fall into the victimizer game. Okay. And so we move through the observation of the traumas through looking at the personality identities that we give ourselves, the psychological identities. And again, so we've got narcissism, we've got the empath. All right, so we know that many of us that have been empaths, oh God, I feel so much. Why do I always end up with the narcissist? Oh God, because you are also the narcissist. All right, it's only one. And it's hard. I know this is hard to hear, and I know that it may sound like I am being completely inconsiderate. Please know that I am moving through it, and I am personally moving through the psychopathy aspect. So let's look at that. Okay. Like I said, we're looking at everything macro to microcosm. All right. We're looking at the wounds: mother wound, father wound, sister wound, cosmic wound, individual wound, ancestral wound. It's all the same. It's all the same. Okay. And we can think that we're in this big spiritual trap. You know, you've been in a trap. You're in false light. You're in a false light trap. That's also a victimizer game. It's also the calibration and rebraiding of the storyline of duality. Okay, and it's okay to do that, because it depends which parts of the universal laws you're experiencing at any one point in time. You could be deep diving into the law of polarity and really be exploring that. That's your free will to do so, right? Or you could be moving into laws of unification, of trinitization, you know, looking at the laws of Trinity. So and the spiritual trap is to think that you must hold neutrality at all costs. Okay. You're human. You're human. You're human angelic. And your genetics has been manipulated. Your emotions have been manipulated. Your mind has been manipulated. Remember, I said those first 3 chakra points are running in an inverted, distorted mechanics. Our light body mechanics are totally distorted. So we've got a lot to observe here and move through and go through. And to think that you must hold neutrality at all costs, so that you can hold, again, an identity and a role that shows that you hold guru status because nothing affects me. I am holding neutrality. Look at me. I can do this so well. I think it's bullshit, because how can you hold it unless your heart is shut down? And your heart is shut down because you've got these sub-personalities protecting the fucking whole thing together. And this is mimicked, your neutrality is mimicked through the suppression of your emotions. And this is suppressed in order for you to avoid pain. And so your neutrality is actually not a level of mastery, because your heart is shut down and God is love. It is feeling. It's like sex, man. Sex isn't this, it's not this clean, yeah, well, there we go. Thank you for that experience. It's Jesus, it's, you know? Or it should be, or it can be. Of course, it's not always like that, but it's dirty, it's messy, it's moist, it's juicy, it's frightening. You may burst into tears afterwards. You may burst into laughter afterwards. You may fart midway. Dare I say that? But, you know, and we don't want to deal with that, because it's like, oh, embarrassing. It's the same how we avoid pain. Or the only way we do that is shut off the heart. And then we claim neutrality, and we claim guru status, and we call this mastery. And it's a mimic. It's a mimic. And what I see or perceive is going to start happening. It's going to become a very ugly place on the internet soon, if people have the courage to show their processes. Because again, like I said, it just feels so fucking weird and awkward to market to one another through distorted hook tactics. I mean, if you do any marketing course, that's how they train you. What is the hook? The first 3 words, the first 3 seconds of your Instagram reel. How to get 6 million people. No. How to just be in coherence and say, hey, listen, guys, listen. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm struggling with determining what's real or not. I am vulnerable in what I'm expressing here. I do hold a bit of wisdom based on my 43 years on this planet, based on the identities and the roles that I've played. I've learned a lot. I'm also humble, and I apologize, because I realize as well that I've been hiding behind some sub-personalities, claiming neutrality, behind psychopathy, in order to avoid pain, so that I can continue to look good online and still earn money, so that I can feed myself and house myself and play this game within reality as a participant, and stay cool and stay trendy and stay relevant. But actually, I'm a hypocrite, because I'm not actually healing. I'm just bypassing, and I'm avoiding pain at all costs. I'm avoiding the fucking ugly cry. I'm avoiding it, right? And I'm saying that I'm feeling it. I'm saying that that I'm empathic. But my empathy is coming from the limbic mind. It is merely it's a mental thing that can read data much like an AI can. The AI cannot be empathic to you, because the AI has no soul. And so actually what's happening when we shut down the heart is that we shut down, sorry, it was getting a bit bright there. When we shut down the heart, we shut the soul aspects off, right? And when we shut the soul aspects off and still call ourselves spiritual, I mean, the soul is always there, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying to really, really look at the dissonance and ask yourself, is my heart around? Is it there? Is it dormant?
Is it protecting ourselves? So, so depending on whose information you're reading, you can read about these, D2 and D4 layers of, so D2, sacral chakra, D4, heart chakra, that are totally distorted. And what's happening at D2, these are our sexual centers, these are our creation centers. And why we have such issues with unification on the planet right now with one another as brothers and sisters, as masculine and feminine, while we are dying, darling, to find our one, or at least someone to just play with for a little while. I mean, to the best of our capability, not being in codependence, being in our pillars of light, but really wanting to learn from each other and to move through it together. It doesn't feel possible right now because we are shut down in the heart, and we're just in this non-attached, non-identification flow of things that is keeping us safe, man, but there's no fucking structure, and without the structure you cannot grow. So again, this masculine, feminine parts need to be balanced out. The limbic brain is wonderful. It's wonderful to perceive patterns, to understand patterns, to stay nice and grounded rather than being in this highly emotive, vulnerable spaces of being. But are you in the divine heart? Are you actually feeling? Right? Are you actually feeling? Because peace is born from the truth. Peace is born from the truth. And the truth can only come when we're looking at the lies. It's not born from control. And when we're in levels of psychopathy or narcissistic sub-personalities, we are trying to control. Okay? The narcissist aspects are far more dramatic. There's far more, kind of emotional manipulation. The psychopathy is very, so again, mild psychopathy is very kind of, we could call it linear, very straight, very cold, very, let's say surgical, very cognitive, mimics a neutral state. But there is a bubbling magma underneath waiting for the volcano to explode. And the explosion will be the pain. The pain will be painful. The pain can only then open up the heart. But the pain is the pain, and we avoid pain at all costs, don't we, as human beings? And yet, let's say the universe is always balancing itself out, as those of us on the spiritual path holding neutrality through actual psychopathy and avoidance of pain for good reason, because there's so much other pain being experienced in other parts of the planet through war, explosions, babies dying, like real pain. So I get it why maybe we're holding that other aspect, but in terms of evolutionary states of moving through this descension into the hardcore darkness of Earth, right, is that we've got to open the heart. And this is why you might see your spiritual leaders possibly pulling away from things like plant medicine, etc., because these are all quote-unquote higher dimensional / hyper-dimensionalized. We don't even know where we're going, because I think we're only beginning to understand the system structure as a simulation at this point in time. And if it is a simulation, then where exactly are we going on in these journeys? Conversation for another time. But my point is, it's here now. It's these layers, it's these chakras. It's looking right at what's happening on planet Earth. Right what's happening in your mindscape. Right what's happening on the lie that you're about to speak on your tongue. On the lie that gets said that is unconscious or subconscious, that you're not even aware of yet, because you don't know you haven't addressed your wounds, and your wounds are speaking to your needs, and you don't know your needs because you're so distracted. And you're distracted because you're being manipulated. Your manipulation is through sensory stimulation, through dopamine fixing and addicting, through just through your wounds. If you look at the world through a set of wounds, which seems like a pretty dark thing to say, but if you look at the world through the set of wounds, we can then begin to understand why we have so many unconscious patterns. And we can understand why our goal is to stay safe. And through that goal, we can understand why we avoid pain. Right? Because all of this is about survival memory. And this is why, let's say, as much as we are experiencing Kali Yuga, this very intense, dark time of our evolutionary state, it is quite magnificent when you come to the full realization of it, because there's nothing to come into other than the most primal state of being, right? Where we no longer suppress anger behind congeniality. And this is why I say the news station and the social media posts and the good little shots here and there. Again, if your life is happy like that, amazing. I'm not saying, everything is in balance. I'm not saying that those families out there that are in a different space of their evolutionary, they can't post happy snaps out there. But those of us holding certain roles and playing certain identities, I just feel like the congeniality is about to drop pretty hardcore. There's no space for it. It's going to bring up a disgust in you, like it's this thing, because we're correcting the inversions, right? And when you see it and you begin to understand, like, but how can this person be in that way in the here and now? And again, they can, because everybody is in a different place at a different time. So, let's not oversimplify it, but I'm saying, like, if you're being hooked into some sort of savior or ascension program strategy by someone who's still showing a lot of congeniality, I feel like it's a time to pause and ask why. What disillusionment still needs to occur for that being? What time and space needs to be taken to look at one's own lies, stories, wounds? Right? Where are we in self-betrayal? Right? Are we in psychopathy or mastery? Something I wanted to read out here. Hold on. Yeah. Humility is the virtue of identifying with finite transcendence. Humility is the virtue of identifying with finite transcendence. There is no self-transcendence, a form of self-correction, if there is no capacity for a deep ownership and responsibility for one's self-deception. There is no self-transcendence, a form of self-correction, if there is no capacity for deep ownership and responsibility of one's own self-deception. And this is what this is about. This is what the identity lesson is about. This is what understanding why we're labeling, why we have so many labels for things. I mean, there's the label of ADD, ADHD, and again, I'm not saying these are not, the attributes to these personality subtypes, or whatever you want to call it, don't affect you in certain ways. They do, because we've created it as such to learn. But what I'm trying to say is, or allude to, is when we're beginning to identify with bigger bodies of information, of data, and therefore identification, we can say and name a label all we want, and we can market ourselves as that label all we want, but we're in the timeline of truth now. We're in this Kali Yuga. We're in the depths of the darkness. We're looking at D1, D2, D3, physical, emotional, mental body, and astral body. Okay, so D4 even. So never mind your D5, dimension 5 realities, ascending earth. No. Look at what's right in front of you. Aspects around safety, physical body. Aspects around emotions, manipulations around masculine, feminine identities, as well as unions. Looking at the mental body, how the mind can trick you into fucking believing anything. The astral body, the astral bliss, and the technology available in order to create validating stories for you that are so real, that you are so enmeshed and braided within that story that you cannot even see through the smoke and mirrors. These are the layers that we're looking at. And that if you want to label yourself as anything else, then, and you have every right to do so, you're a free will being. But if you want to hold any other label in authenticity, then you've got to look at self-deception. You've got to look at self-deception. And what that means is you're beginning to look at the wound. There's actually another good piece of something that I wrote here. Hold on. I think I said, peace is born from truth, not control. So again, mild psychopathy as well is this kind of like inability to want to learn, right? And avoiding pain is to avoid learning. And if we're avoiding learning, we are inevitably shutting down one of our core requirements of evolution, right? Growth and expansion, self-mastery and transcendence. So that's what I said before. That transcendence, that self-transcendence cannot happen without responsibility, self-observation, and the bravery that it takes to look at self-deceit. Because if you don't do that, you're in complete soul-sabotage, right? And you keep reaching out, and it's a false hunger. And so you keep reaching out, and you keep reaching out. And the thing is, these fragmented aspects of the self, which again we can call demonic aspects, it doesn't matter, whatever your reference of understanding. So we can give teachings from the perspective of unified field, or we can give teachings from the perspective of dimensionalized duality constructs. It doesn't matter. Both are, right? So if we say we've got demonic aspects that are creating chaos in our worlds, that are there to feed off of energies that are blind to us, and this is why the self-work at looking at the shadow identities and the shadow body is so important,
is because we have these demonic energies feeding off of the parts of ourselves that we're not willing to look at, the aspects around dissonance and self-deceit that we are so entranced in. So it's like an enchantment. It's like this enchantment spell, particularly D4, these astral layers and astral aspects. There's an enchantment there that you, and when you step out of it, you literally cannot, and it's very, very difficult to step out of. But it will become easier and easier as the collective shifts to a point where, like I said, the holographic projection back out is showing such distortion that you can no longer hold the act together. You can't hold it together without the authentic boom, that original fucking point, that nexus point, the genesis point, coming into unification. And you cannot do that. You cannot be authentic in that if you don't start looking at the wounds. So it will naturally happen. So, it might be interesting and an interesting exercise if you can even stomach it, because you might not be able to hold the field of it, is to observe teachers out there, within the spiritual circles, within leadership circles, whether it be mindset teachers, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment. Those of us that are in the roles and identities, and to see how this starts shifting and changing. I mean, I don't know what to fucking call myself anymore. I'm doing these videos, so okay, cool, yay, I'm still a podcaster, yay, amazing. But actually what this is my fucking life. This is a moment, this is an hour and 16 minutes of my life that is being recorded into the God code as one of my core needs being met through my authentic expression and sharing through validation. I mean, I don't get much validation because the algorithms are very good at not providing that, but perhaps there's some visibility, right? And I certainly feel autonomous in this moment. I feel wonderful to sit in the forest and have come to choose to do this in the forest. Not because I need some spiritual background, but because I needed to be in the fucking forest, because I'm dying right now. It may not seem so on this video, but pretty much every day for 2 weeks, or at least every second day, I'm in tears. And I don't mean some days it's a soft little cry the whole day. Like the whole day. The whole day. I mean, last night, it's gut-wrenching. It's heartbreaking. I'm grieving. I'm grieving. And this video is, so one of our core needs as well is like this need to feel significant within a purpose and have a perceived power, because this will be on the table as well with the further evolution of AI coming in. You will begin to feel quite powerless, and so again it's just all being shown in order to recalibrate it back to the self in divinity, not as substitutes, not as mimic power, not as substitute significance, as in I've come from here, I've come in, I can return, I'm expansion, I am contraction, I am fission, I am fusion, I am goddamn magnificent. I do not fear death.
For death would mean I am attached to the identity. I do not, or I no longer fear feeling pain. I no longer avoid feeling pain. You know, and this is also where we're going to see the correction coming in now. So the reframe, the correction, is another word I'm looking for, refinement within spiritual leaders, spiritual practices is instead of having these retreats where we're like, yay, we're going to go and feel like, woo, we're feeling all love and light afterwards, yay, yoga retreat, a little bit of orange juice and champagne there. No, we're going to have grief retreats where we're like going to go deep into the pain. And it's not like I haven't been doing this, right? I'm a shadow worker, predominantly, one of the identities, right? And it's not been great for business. It's not been great for business at all, because nobody wants to spend money and go and feel the depths of their darkness and the depths of their pain. They don't. Especially because it's hard-earned money based on the identities of the grid there that's like, I deserve to spend my money in a way that makes me feel good and special and better and love and light, and so that I can take photos and so that it can be on Instagram and so that we can feed the wound, right? It's all just feeding the wound. Remember, like I said, go back and start to look at planet Earth as a big wounded child. As one part, she is also a mighty fucking consciousness that we are fleas on the back of a giant here, you know. Like I said, it's like micro to macro, right? Micro to macro. But yeah, you know, I think our healing now is gonna start to get very, very mucky, very dirty, and your facilitators need to have gone through that. Yeah, they need to have gone through that. You know, and again, this I haven't spoken about safety at all in this video. I've spoken about identities. But the identities link, those sub-personalities, that mild psychopathy, the narcissism, it's all just to keep you safe. So that your what do they call it? The castle of cards or whatever, sorry, I can't think of the English now. You know, your stack of cards doesn't fall down and just dissolve. Your structures. So I've said structure is important, but when it's built with, when it's built on unmet needs and trauma, it's going to collapse, ladies and gents. It's going to collapse. And it's a very, very interesting time, particularly for those of us looking for union, right? Which I think all of us are at any point in time. I don't think this is a surprise to people. But we're looking at these, again, the polarized states of the avoidant versus the anxious attachment. Okay? And what I've been observing for myself is the anxious attachment, for me, was created from the mother wound, was created from the wound of narcissistic upbringing, etc., etc. But if we take those labels away, because this is it, it's like I'm hugely sensitive. I've become hugely sensitive, and this is where the psychopathy comes in. These are people that can read fucking everything. You know, like a sociopath or a psychopath is a very smart person. They can maneuver around and mimic around and act this and that, but just to get their way. And when we're looking at relationship dynamics, and this is what I'm going through now, of like, oh my God, like this, I'm feeling so much. I feel like I'm too much. I feel like I'm too much for the other person. Holy shit, are the wounds being exposed. But I'm simultaneously diving into the wound in order to feel more and to fucking embrace that as yes, yeah, I'm sorry, this is the level that I am connected to the whole thing, and this is the level at which I feel. This is my authenticness, or my authenticity. This is my truth. This is my feeling body. This is the size of my heart. Feel me. Feel the feminine. And in order to feel that much, I've got to move back into risking being unliked, risking being deemed as too much, risking voicing my opinion, risking trusting my feelings, my intuition, that starseed cosmic aspect of my identity that's trying to come in, that is going, you are connected to everything. You can feel everything. And as I hold on, so as to protect you, so that I don't explode on here and show all my emotions, so all my feelings. Reframing the inconvenience of being an emotionally connected, heart-centered, feeling being, and not being embarrassed by that. Being a little selfish in that, a little bit more brave. For I exist, I am here, and I ratarletele kiara rutunturuatara ele iara eka. I require these feelings to come out. Otherwise, I am a little fucking dormant mouse. And if I can explain what's happening to my body now, my feet are crunching. Those of you that watch me will know my feet crunch when I'm like, there's energy moving and I'm trying to hold it in. Again, to protect the other. This is the whole mother wound. This is the whole fucking anxious attachment. This is the whole fucking reframing, recalibrating yourself, your actual personality outside of this, creating all those sub-personalities to protect yourself so that you can protect the other. Why? Because you were empathic, because you were sensitive. And we're coming all the way back to sensitivity and feeling. Why? Because I would like to correct what is in my physical, emotional, mental, and astral bodies so that I can come into partnership and union with someone on earth. How dare I say that? Yes, I want transcendence and union with God, etc., etc. But I would also like it in this physical realm, if that's okay with everybody. So these masculine and feminine aspects need to be dealt with very, very deeply. Because if I don't have that masculine that can hold this level of emotion that I'm feeling, and it's not about emotion being taken over by emotion. You know, if you watch any Jordan Peterson stuff, he's got information about, let's say, what he calls the super empath. You know, the super empath is no longer a victim of their empathy. The super empath now begins to, just totally understand their alchemy. And it is to feel, because we are connected to everything. It's just one big field. And if I'm transmuting through these emotions because the planet is going through so much pain, then fuck yes. Then I require a masculine to be able to hold that and be like, baby girl, thank you for your femininity. Yes, look at this queen. Woo! Look at her fucking outrageously great big fucking lion hearts. Look at how much she feels, how much she can hold.
We should not be doing this alone. Oh. We should not be doing this alone. Is our mind dictating or liberating? Can we feel safe when we feel it all? Without the label of, just the labels, just dropping all the fucking labels. The one label I'm really wanting to and willing to hold right now and feel proud and honored to hold is the label of feminine, of divine feminine, of the risk that brings. Right. I think I'm going to close this so that I can continue to release. Yeah. Ciao, everybody. Thank you.